The biggest comeback in superhero history almost didn't happen. Hollywood executives whispered he was too old, too risky, too much baggage. They had already recast his most iconic role with a two-time Oscar winner. But when Wesley Snipes walked back onto that Deadpool and Wolverine, set in 2024, something shifted. The audience response wasn't just positive, it was seismic. And now Marvel's facing a crisis they created themselves. The foundation. To understand how Wesley Snipes broke Hollywood's unwritten rules about comebacks, you need to see where he started. Because this wasn't some privileged kid who stumbled into fame, this was survival from day one. July 31st, 1962, Orlando, Florida. Wesley Trent Snipes entered a world that didn't promise him anything. His mother worked aircraft construction, single-parent household for stretches of his childhood. The Bronx's South neighborhood became home when the family moved north. This wasn't the Bronx of tourist brochures. This was 1970s New York, where entire blocks looked like war zones. But Snipes found something at age 7 that would save his life multiple times over: martial arts. He started training in karate, then branched into other disciplines. By 12, he was studying at the Harlem School of the Arts, acting and combat training happening simultaneously. Most kids picked one path. Snipes walked both, understanding instinctively that his body and his presence would be his weapons in an industry designed to keep people like him out. High School of the Performing Arts in Manhattan, the Fame School. Snipes worked harder than everyone around him because he had to. Scholarship to the State University of New York at purchase. He was the broke kid surrounded by students whose parents paid full tuition without blinking. He studied theater, refined his craft, and kept training. 5th degree black belt in Shotokan Karate, 4th degree in Hapkido, mastery in Capoeira, Kung Fu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. These weren't celebrity vanity belts, these were decades of legitimate dedication. 1984, Michael Jackson's Bad music video. Snipes got cast as a street thug, 30 seconds of screen time, but that led to small film roles. Wildcats in 1986, playing a high school football player. Streets of Gold the same year. Nobody noticed. He was just another face in the background, another struggling actor waiting tables between auditions. The system wasn't built for him. A black actor with real martial arts skills in the 1980s? Hollywood couldn't figure out where to put him. Too serious for comedy, too skilled for the stereotypical street thug roles, too American for the Asian martial artist parts. So he stayed hungry, stayed training, and waited for the door to crack open. The breakthrough. 1989 changed everything. Major League hit theaters, and Snipes played Willie Mays Hayes, the trash-talking speedster with more confidence than sense. The role wasn't deep, but Snipes made it memorable. He brought charisma that jumped off the screen. Audiences noticed. More importantly, casting directors noticed. Then came New Jack City in 1991. As Nino Brown, a ruthless drug lord ruling Harlem, Snipes delivered a performance that announced him as a legitimate star. The film made over $47 million domestically. Warner Brothers had found their new action lead, but Snipes wasn't interested in being one-dimensional. White Men Can't Jump in '92 proved he could do comedy alongside Woody Harrelson. He could carry a film without firing a single gun. Then Demolition Man in '93 put him opposite Sylvester Stallone, playing a psychotic villain with genuine menace. Snipes was doing what few black actors in Hollywood could do at that time. He was choosing his roles, building a diverse resume, refusing to be boxed in. But behind the scenes, he was fighting for something bigger, something that would change superhero cinema forever. The film that saved Marvel. Picture this. It's 1998. Superhero movies are basically jokes. Batman and Robin killed the genre a year earlier with rubber nipples and ice puns. Studios won't touch comic book properties. Marvel Comics is bleeding money, circling bankruptcy, selling off film rights to their characters just to keep the lights on. Into this disaster walks Wesley Snipes with a pitch: Blade, a half-vampire vampire hunter from a relatively obscure Marvel comic. This New Line Cinema thinks he's insane. Snipes doesn't blink. He wants this character. He sees the potential that studio executives can't. But here's where it gets interesting. Snipes didn't just want to play Blade. He fought for the entire vision. Dark, violent, R-rated. Everything superhero movies weren't supposed to be. New Line kept pushing back. Make it lighter, make it PG-13. Snipes held firm. This wasn't Superman saving kittens. This was a warrior hunting monsters. It needed teeth. New Line finally gave him $45 million and got out of his way. When Blade dropped in August 1998, it made $131 million worldwide. More importantly, it proved something Hollywood had refused to believe. Dark, violent, R-rated superhero films could work. Audiences wanted edge. They wanted characters who bled. Blade 2 in 2002 was even better. Guillermo del Toro directing. $155 million worldwide. The trilogy was printing money and giving Marvel Comics a lifeline they desperately needed. Industry experts later confirmed what Snipes had known all along. Without Blade's success, Marvel Entertainment doesn't survive to launch the MCU. Without Snipes slicing through vampires with legitimate martial arts skills and genuine intensity, there's no Iron Man in 2008, no Avengers, no multi-billion-dollar franchise. Wesley Snipes didn't just star in a successful trilogy. He saved Marvel Comics from complete collapse. Remember that. Because Hollywood sure forgot it fast. The beginning of the end. 2004. Blade Trinity went into production, and behind the scenes became legendary chaos. Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel joined the cast. David Goyer, who'd written the first two films, took over as director. And Wesley Snipes went full method actor in ways that turned the production into a nightmare. According to co-star Patton Oswalt and multiple crew members, Snipes stayed in character, even off camera. He spent most days in his trailer, only emerging for close-ups while a stand-in handled everything else. The most infamous detail? He allegedly stopped speaking to director David Goyer entirely. Instead, he communicated exclusively through post-it notes signed as Blade on a major Hollywood production. Post-it notes. The situation escalated when Snipes took issue with what he perceived as a lack of black representation on set. He felt the production was being whitewashed, that Blade was being pushed aside in his own film to make room for Reynolds and Biel. Tensions exploded. Rumors swirled that Snipes tried to strangle Goyer, though Snipes firmly denies this. As he pointed out later, a black man assaulting a white director would absolutely result in prison time. The accusation alone showed how toxic things had become. Ryan Reynolds found himself performing opposite someone who refused to acknowledge his existence. Many of Reynolds' funniest ad-libbed lines came from genuine frustration. There's a moment where he says, "He hates me, doesn't he?" That wasn't scripted. That was Reynolds commenting on his actual relationship with Snipes during production. The whole thing became a disaster that resulted in a mediocre film. Trinity made money but disappointed fans. Snipes' reputation took a hit. Whispers started spreading through Hollywood. Difficult, unprofessional, hard to work with. The labels that kill careers. But that was nothing compared to what was already happening behind closed doors. While Snipes was fighting vampires on screen, something sinister was happening with his finances. And the consequences would destroy everything he had built. The fall. While at his career peak, Wesley Snipes had placed his trust in the wrong people. Financial advisors feeding him bizarre theories about taxation, including Ken Starr, who would later be exposed as a massive fraudster with connections to Bernie Madoff. They convinced Snipes he didn't owe federal income taxes using the 861 argument, a fringe conspiracy theory claiming U.S. citizens could only be taxed on foreign income. It's complete nonsense, rejected by every court in America. But it sounded convincing to someone who'd grown up poor, who'd fought for everything, who had reasons to distrust systems designed to keep people like him down. Snipes stopped filing tax returns from 1999 through 2004. During that period, he earned approximately $37 million. He didn't just avoid paying. He filed fraudulent amended returns claiming he deserved $12 million in refunds. When the IRS came calling, he doubled down. Sent threatening letters claiming the IRS was an illegitimate terrorist organization. Declared himself a non-resident alien despite being born in Florida. Transferred assets to a pure trust, claiming he no longer owned his money. Every move made things exponentially worse. October 2006. Federal prosecutors hit him with conspiracy to defraud the United States, filing false claims, and 6 counts of failing to file returns. If convicted on all counts, he faced 16 years in federal prison. The trial became a media sensation. Hollywood's blade facing government prosecutors. The symbolism was inescapable. February 1st, 2008. The jury acquitted him of the serious felony charges but convicted him on 3 misdemeanor counts of failing to file returns. Judge William Terrell Hodges sentenced him to the maximum, 3 years. Snipes appealed multiple times, claiming bias and racism. Every appeal was rejected. December 9th, 2010. Wesley Snipes became federal inmate number 4355008. He served 28 months at McKean Federal Correctional Institution in Pennsylvania before release in April 2013, followed by house arrest. But the financial nightmare continued. The IRS placed a lien for $23.5 million in back taxes and penalties. Snipes offered $850,000. They countered with $9.5 million. Reports suggest he still owes approximately that amount today. For most people, this would be the end. Career over, reputation destroyed, future canceled. Wesley Snipes isn't most people. The wilderness years. When Snipes walked out of federal prison in April 2013, Hollywood had moved on. The roles dried up immediately. Not because he lacked talent, because the industry decided he was toxic. He took small parts in The Expendables 3, showed up in Chi-Raq, did The Player. These weren't leading roles. These were, hey, remember that guy cameos. The phone calls from major studios stopped entirely. Directors who'd begged to work with him suddenly had scheduling conflicts. But something was happening behind the scenes that nobody paid attention to. Snipes kept training. 5th degree black belt doesn't maintain itself. The martial arts discipline that had carried him through childhood poverty, through Hollywood's racism, through fame and prison, that never stopped. 6 days a week in the dojo, staying in shape, staying sharp, like he knew something was coming. Then, in 2019, Netflix's Dolomite Is My Name gave him a significant supporting role opposite Eddie Murphy. Critics noticed Snipes could still command the screen. He brought gravitas and humor to Rudy Ray Moore's accountant. Directors started remembering why they had cast him originally. Not just the martial arts skills, the presence, the intelligence behind the eyes, but the big roles, the franchise opportunities, gone. Marvel announced their Blade reboot with Mahershala Ali in 2019, a 2-time Oscar winner taking over Snipes' most iconic role. The symbolism was brutal. Hollywood moving on with someone safer, more palatable, less complicated. The reboot was supposed to hit theaters in 2023, then 2024, then November 2025. Then Marvel pulled the plug entirely in March 2025 and removed it from their schedule. 6 years of development, 6 different screenwriters, 2 directors who walked away. Nothing to show for it. Meanwhile, Wesley Snipes was watching from the outside. The role he'd created, the character he'd fought to bring to life, the trilogy that saved Marvel from bankruptcy, being fumbled by the same studio that owed him everything. And here's what nobody expected. He wasn't bitter, he stayed ready. The call that changed everything. 2024. Ryan Reynolds sent a text message. After 2 decades of reported animosity stemming from the Trinity disaster, Reynolds reached out about Deadpool and Wolverine. Snipes initially didn't believe it would happen. Why would Marvel be interested? Why would Disney sign off on an ex-convict returning to a major franchise? Mahershala Ali was already the new Blade. Now, the door was closed, but Reynolds is persuasive, and he understood something Disney executives didn't. Audiences don't care about corporate decisions. They care about authenticity. They care about the real thing. When Snipes showed up on set, he kept his involvement secret, even from family. The NDAs were ironclad. One leak could kill the surprise. He worked quietly, professionally, none of the chaos from Trinity. Just a man grateful for another chance, prepared to deliver. And when the cameras rolled, that old intensity returned. At 62 years old, Snipes moved like he'd never stopped. The martial arts mastery still sharp, the screen presence still magnetic. The crew watched in genuine awe. This wasn't some washed-up actor cashing a nostalgia check. This was a legend proving he'd never actually left. The film wrapped, the marketing campaign began, and Marvel Studios kept Snipes' involvement completely secret. The speculation online was insane. Fans begged for cameos from Fox-era characters. Some predicted Blade might show up. Most thought it was wishful thinking. Then Deadpool and Wolverine hit theaters in July 2024. The scene that broke the internet. When Wesley Snipes appeared on screen in the black leather, the iconic sword, that familiar stance, theaters exploded. People stood up. They screamed. They cried. 20 years after Trinity disappointed them, 25 years after the original Blade changed superhero cinema forever, here he was. Still dangerous, still cool, still Blade. The scene where he delivers the line became instant legend. There's only ever going to be one Blade. Direct to camera, absolute confidence, a not-so-subtle middle finger to Marvel's inability to get their reboot off the ground. The audience at early screenings went absolutely nuclear. The memes spread within hours. Social media couldn't stop talking about it. Guinness World Records made it official. Wesley Snipes now holds 2 records. Longest career as a live-action Marvel character, beating Hugh Jackman, and longest gap between character appearances at 25 years and 240 days. The film itself, $1.3 billion worldwide. 3rd highest grossing film of 2024. A massive success that nobody predicted would hinge so heavily on a 62-year-old actor Hollywood had written off as finished. Snipes didn't need complex origin stories. He didn't need setup or explanation. He just needed to be Blade. And for those few minutes of screen time, he reminded everyone of a fundamental truth Hollywood keeps trying to ignore. You can't replace authentic. The industry's backfire. Here's where things get really interesting. Because Hollywood's plan to bury Wesley Snipes and move on with Mahershala Ali spectacularly backfired, and now they're facing a problem entirely of their own making. Industry insider Daniel Richtman started reporting something explosive. Snipes could appear in multiple undisclosed MCU projects. Avengers, Secret Wars is a likely candidate. Avengers, Doomsday makes sense. Think about it logically. Marvel brought back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man for No Way Home. That film made $1.9 billion. Why wouldn't they bring back the most iconic Marvel character from the Fox era? Especially when their current Blade project is deader than the vampires he hunts. But here's the kicker. They can't publicly admit they were wrong. Can't admit that recasting Blade was a mistake. Can't admit that Wesley Snipes is more valuable to them at 62 than their Oscar winner replacement. Mahershala Ali himself expressed frustration at the Jurassic World Rebirth premiere. Asked when Blade filming would begin, his response was blunt. "Call Marvel, I'm ready. Let them know I'm ready." That's not confidence. That's weariness from an actor who signed on in 2019, and it's now 2025 with absolutely nothing to show for it. David S. Goyer, who wrote the original trilogy and directed the chaotic Trinity, recently admitted he's puzzled by Marvel's inability to crack the story. A vampire hunter hunting vampires should be simple, he said. The irony is beautiful. Marvel Studios, masters of the shared universe, can't figure out Blade. Meanwhile, Wesley Snipes shows up for maybe 10 minutes in Deadpool and Wolverine and steals everything. The Whisper campaign that tried to kill his comeback is now working in reverse. Executives who spread "too old, too risky" are getting nervous because audiences just proved they want Wesley Snipes more than they want whoever Marvel tries to replace him with. The impossible position. Marvel's stuck. They've got Mahershala Ali, a genuinely talented actor with 2 Academy Awards, committed to the role. They've invested years of development time and millions of dollars into a film that can't seem to get made. 6 screenwriters couldn't crack the story. 2 directors walked away. The project was supposed to launch Phase 5. Instead, it's become Phase Cursed. But they also have Wesley Snipes, the only person audiences actually want as Blade, at 62 years old, proving he can still deliver authentic action. breaking Guinness World Records, stealing a $1.3 billion film with minimal screen time, generating more organic buzz than any marketing campaign Marvel could buy. The smart play is obvious. Give Snipes one final proper Blade film. Let him pass the torch on his terms. Or create a multiverse scenario where both versions exist. Ali becomes the MCU's main timeline Blade, while Snipes remains the definitive version from another reality. Bring them together for Secret Wars or Doomsday. But that would require Marvel admitting they were wrong, admitting they fumbled a franchise reboot for 6 straight years, admitting the ex-convict they tried to erase is more valuable than the safe choice they replaced him with. Hollywood doesn't apologize. It doubles down. Adding fuel to speculation, Snipes signed with Independent Artist Group in October 2024. You don't sign with a major talent agency without projects lined up. Agencies don't take clients out of charity. Snipes is planning something. Or multiple somethings. He's cryptic on social media, shares articles about his comeback without confirming anything, posts training videos showing he's still in remarkable shape. The silence generates more buzz than any announcement could. He learned something in those wilderness years. Mystery creates demand. What the comeback represents. This isn't just about Wesley Snipes getting another movie role. This is about whether American culture's promises about redemption are real or performative. Can someone who served federal prison time truly be welcomed back? Can past mistakes be acknowledged without becoming permanent stains? Can talent and discipline overcome the industry's desire for safe, controllable stars? Snipes' journey tests all of it. He made terrible decisions with his taxes. He served his time. He paid his debt to society, literally and figuratively. The IRS still has their lien for $9.5 million. Every paycheck he earns, a portion goes to settling 2 decades of tax obligations. He carries that burden every single day. But he didn't let it define him. Didn't become bitter, didn't blame everyone else for his mistakes. He owned what he'd done, served his sentence, and quietly rebuilt through sheer talent and discipline. Before Deadpool and Wolverine, mentioning Wesley Snipes meant referencing tax evasion, the Trinity disaster, the post-it notes, and on-set chaos. Those were the headlines, the punchlines, the cautionary tales. Now, those are footnotes in a larger story about resilience. Young fans discovering him through the Deadpool cameo are going back and watching the original Blade trilogy, realizing what they missed. Social media is filled with arguments that he's the greatest comic book casting ever, that he paved the way for every black superhero who came after, that without his willingness to fight for an R-rated vampire hunter when studios thought it was career suicide, there's no modern superhero cinema. The conversation shifted dramatically, and Marvel had nothing to do with it except trying to stop it from happening. The physical testament. At 62 years old, Wesley Snipes maintains conditioning that puts men half his age to shame. That 5th-degree black belts in Shotokan karate didn't come from weekend classes. That required decades of consistent dedication, starting at age 7, never stopping. The mental toughness that earned those belts in 7 different martial arts disciplines, that's what carried him through federal prison, through financial ruin, through Hollywood exile, through every door that slammed in his face after his release. While many action stars his age rely on stunt doubles and CGI, Snipes still moves like a fighter, still trains 6 days a week, still understands that discipline is the only thing separating success from collapse. He never stopped preparing, even when there was nothing to prepare for, even when Hollywood told him his time was over. He stayed ready so he didn't have to get ready. And when Ryan Reynolds sent that text, Snipes didn't need 6 months to get back in shape. He was already there. That's the difference between someone chasing relevance and someone who never doubted their value. The real victory Wesley Snipes already won. Not by conquering Hollywood or achieving ultimate vindication, by reclaiming his narrative. He's no longer defined by his lowest moments. Tax evasion is context now, not the headline. The Trinity drama is a footnote, not his legacy. He's the guy who came back, who broke records, who reminded everyone why he mattered. Future film students will analyze his performances. Martial arts practitioners will reference his authentic technique. Actors facing controversies will study his comeback playbook. He's become a case study in resilience worth more than any box office total or award. the legacy transcends entertainment. It speaks to fundamental human capacity for growth and redemption, for refusing to accept that one chapter defines the entire story. Hollywood that cast him aside is recalculating. Executives who wouldn't return his calls a decade ago suddenly want meetings. Projects that seemed impossible during his exile are back on the table. The industry runs on momentum. Wesley Snipes has it again. Smart producers recognize his name generates instant press. His face on a poster creates buzz money can't buy. The comeback story writes its own marketing campaign. But here's what matters more than all of it. When the lights went out and Hollywood moved on, Wesley Snipes didn't break, didn't become another cautionary tale about fame and excess, didn't fade into bitterness. He found something worth more than being remembered. He found dignity in the darkness, purpose beyond applause. The unfinished story. The latest headlines aren't breaking news in the traditional sense. They're chapters in an ongoing story more interesting than any single development. Each rumor about secret wars. Each interview where he smiles and says nothing. Each social media post hinting at projects he can't discuss. Pieces of a larger mosaic depicting a man who refused to accept his story was over. He rewrote the ending himself, with no help from the industry that tried to erase him, with nothing but discipline, talent, and an understanding that Hollywood's rejection isn't the final word on anyone's value. When Marvel finally announces their plans, and they will because the audience demand won't stop, remember you witnessed something rare, someone falling from absolute peak, hitting rock bottom spectacularly, and climbing back through determination and skill. Hollywood, notorious for eating its young and discarding veterans, made space for a second act nobody predicted. Not out of generosity, out of necessity. Because Wesley Snipes forced them to remember why legends become legends. There's only ever going to be one Blade, and his name is Wesley Snipes. Everything else is trying to recapture lightning in a bottle he already drank from. The question isn't whether he's back. That's answered. The question is how much farther this comeback can go. Based on 1.3 billion reasons, the answer looks like very far. Some stories demand to be told all the way through. This is one of them. What do you think? Should Marvel give Wesley Snipes one final solo Blade film? Or let him anchor Secret Wars alongside the new generation? Drop your thoughts below. If you think Hollywood tried to bury him and he refused to stay down, smash that like button. Subscribe for more stories about legends who rewrote their endings, because this comeback isn't finished yet.